Hello and welcome to the conference title game edition of the Monster Pod here presented by The Lines. Matt Brown, Mo Nuwwarah going to break down both of these games for you guys, give you all the bets in our account, all the thoughts, and all the stuff that we want to stay away from. A reminder, everything we do absolutely free here, so go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below. If you're listening to us on the audio side of things, a subscribe, rate, review, we do appreciate all of that stuff as well. Before we get going, Mo, we were talking before we got recording here. You did make it out to the stadium last week. You braved the cold. You said, hey, inside the stadium, not quite as bad as maybe it looked on television, but it was every bit as cold as it looked on television outside of the stadium.
Yeah, if people don't know, if they haven't been to Arrowhead, I mean, it's my favorite place in the entire world, literally. So I'm not going to hate on it or anything, but man, it is located in basically a massive plain of concrete, so there's nothing there. There's nothing blocking the wind. So when you walk out of the stadium and you walk 15 minutes to your car, it is brutal. Wind howling across your face, 12 degrees. It was bad, but it's worth it. I mean, it wasn't the prettiest game, but the Chiefs got the W.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, look, a win is a win is a win, which gets you back into this spot. So, man, it is going to be fun to talk about that game. But let's get going here. Washington Commanders on the road at the Philadelphia Eagles. This is 6 as we sit right now. A couple of places actually juiced a little bit on that 6, and you have FanDuel out there at 6.5. So this thing has already moved through that 6 there at FanDuel. A total of 47.5, pretty much across the industry here in this one. We do get the full practice from Jalen Hurts. I know everybody worried about what's going on with him there. I as well do wonder about how effective he can be, Mo. But I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it might not matter, right? I mean, this is basically Saquon versus the Commanders' run defense. And can the run defense for Washington do anything to stop this freak of nature?
I'm not sure if they can. Yeah. They haven't. 2 prior meetings. I think it was 198 total yards and 150 total yards or something like that. So they were pretty much inept at stopping him before. Obviously, they did manage to win one of the games in a shootout. I don't know how much to take away from, especially that second game. Jalen Hurts got hurt early. That was basically a Kenny Pickett start. But at the same time, I mean, you just look at some of these props. The market is definitely skeptical of Jalen Hurts, and I'm with the market. But then at the same time, you have this movement towards the Eagles. So I don't understand how those two things are a thing, because you have Saquon Barkley's rushing attempts prop at 24.5, 25.5. That's multiple attempts above his average, multiple attempts above his median this year. So I'm not sure what's going on there, because I don't really think they can cover 6.5 unless Jalen Hurts plays like we know he is capable of.
Right.
But man, the last 2 weeks have been ugly. He has under 300 passing yards in the playoffs, and some of the yards he's got are take a snap, wing it 1 yard A-dot to Dallas Goedert, and he stiff arms the guy 40 yards down the field. I mean, they still didn't trust Jalen Hurts to do anything on third. I think they should have lost to the Rams. Maybe I'm being just sour grapes about my future, but I think the Rams should have won that game. At the same time, there's concerns for Washington. Sam Cosmi, he might be their best lineman. He's done. Pretty sick situation, tearing his ACL in the playoffs. The Eagles are 32nd in pass rate over expected this year. I mean, they're first in rushing rate in the regular season. They've been running the ball more than that in the playoffs. So it's like you said, it really does come down to probably stopping Saquon. I don't know how predictive home run running plays are. I guess they are somewhat predictive with Saquon, but I'm tempted to play Washington money line again in this spot. That being said, this is a tough matchup for their offense. I mean, Jaden Daniels performed much better last week when he was blitzed. We know the Eagles aren't going to blitz. We know they're going to sit back in their zone. They're going to do Fangio things, and that will make things tougher. Washington has to run the ball, effectively, same thing I said about Green Bay, same thing I said about the Rams. The Rams did it. Green Bay did not. And Washington hasn't shown any ability to run the ball in this matchup. They got completely stonewalled, even though the Eagles love playing light boxes, both of the first two matchups. So I'm a bit worried about that. I did make a bet here, though. I think no matter which way the game script goes, I am skeptical of this Eagles offense. I took under 27.5 team total here. I like that quite a bit. That's the first thing I put into my account this week.
Yeah, you take a look here and you talk about this pass game for this Eagles team. 3.9 yards per dropback in the two postseason games this year. I mean, it's wild to talk about that this team advanced when we are saying 3.9 yards per dropback, and this team is in the damn conference championship game. It's crazy, but Saquon has just been that good. They've ridden him so well, and then you get this guy coming to town with this bullish offensive line that has gotten him to where he is first in the NFL in yards before contact, going up against a defense that is 32nd in the NFL in yards before contact allowed. And so it's just, can they do anything? Is there anything that they can change to try and neutralize Saquon Barkley? And if that's the case, you just try to put it on Jalen Hurts' shoulder, which may or may not be hurt, which knee may or may not be, all the stuff that's going on with Jalen Hurts in this. And I guess the question is, though, Mo, is you would think that a lot of teams have that exact same, philosophy, and it's just not something that's been able to be done so far with all of this. I mean, I understand why the rushing prop is at 25 carries. If they don't get him 25 carries in this game, they're probably doing it wrong, And so, I don't know about him getting to 100, and I think the market high is all the way up to 100 and friggin' 27.5 or something on his rushing yards. So
I mean, that's higher.
Yeah,
I think it was 132 or something.
Yeah, it's just insanity. And you mentioned with Hurts, the market low is 180 on his passing yards. I mean, 180 yards. We're talking Jake Haener level stuff here. When he was making starts for the Saints and everything. And so I don't know. It's pretty tough for me. I have a de facto, just kind of let people know. It's kind of like you were talking about with the Rams. So I have a de facto future ticket kind of already on this. Every year I take the dart Super Bowl ticket type deal. And so I actually have an Eagles over Bills at 75-1 Super Bowl ticket. So I kind of have a play in this already, but when it was 4.5, the market came in really strong on the Commanders to start. And when it got down to 4.5, it had just gotten too low for me. And I understand that it's a pretty easy game plan, you would think, from a defensive standpoint for the Commanders. Go in, stop Saquon, make Jalen Hurts beat you with his arm. He may or may not be healthy, all these things, et cetera, et cetera. But no one's been able to do it. No one's been able to go in there. Like you said, Jaden Daniels not going to have those lanes to get all the scramble yards because, again, they're not going to blitz. They're not going to get a ton of crazy lanes opening up for him. So I just wonder what this Commanders offense looks like too. So when it got to 4.5, I thought it was a little too much of a move. Now we're back to the 6.5. I think it's probably a little bit more appropriate. And of course, now that being said, if it gets to 7, which it's already gotten to 6.5, it gets to 7, then I think the side's the Commanders, so it's just one of those deals with me. So let's talk about a guy here that you and I have talked about 3 different times on this podcast, wondering why they continue to do with Brian Robinson what they continue to do with Brian Robinson. But the thing is that they just do it with him. And so you have a 35.5 rushing yards out there for Brian Robinson. He's incredibly inefficient. But the problem is they just keep letting him run the ball, Mo. So it's we're looking here. He played in 16 games this year. He got at least 10 carries in 13 of those games. And one of the games he didn't, he was hurt in. And so he left. So basically in 15 of the games that he actually played, he got at least 10 carries in 13 of the 15 games. And so despite how incredibly inefficient he is, they continue to just give him the ball over and over and over and over and over again. And his carries is sitting at 9.5. His carries is at 9.5. His yardage is at 35.5. I just don't know what to do with this guy. I'm trying to make good prop bets no matter what I think his talent level has fallen off a cliff over the second half of the season for whatever reason. But if they're going to keep giving him the carries, I kind of just have to give in to what they're doing as opposed to what my brain is telling me.
Yeah, I'm a little bit bullish Brian Robinson as well, even though they haven't been able to run the ball. I kind of liked you can get anytime touchdown around plus 200. I think that's worth it, man. I mean, 15 carries last week. He kind of reappeared, 77 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's like you said. I don't know if he's playing hurt or what the situation is there, but he hasn't been able to do much in the second half of the season. He was very, very good in the first half of the season. But I fully expect the Eagles to be playing as many light boxes as they think they can get away with. So I kind of think, I could see a decent Brian Robinson game here as well. I mean, it doesn't even have to be that decent to get past 35.5.
Exactly. That's why, again, I hated it. I had to throw it in. I took a little sprinkle of the over 9.5 as well because, it seems like they're going to get this guy double-digit carries come hell or high water, and so I kind of went there. As far as the total sits at 47.5, what's our case for the over and what's our case for the under here?
I think the case for the over is Jalen Hurts being healthy again and being able to throw because this is obviously a beatable defense. I think Washington wins will sometimes go over. But that's why I like the Eagles team total under as well, because I could totally see them winning this game 24-16 or something.
Yeah.
But if they lose, I do not see them surpassing 27.5 points.
Yeah.
I just am a little bit bearish on this Washington offense relative to what they've been putting up the last few weeks.
Yeah.
This is a much tougher test. I mean, Detroit was basically a disaster at that point. They blitzed a ton. It wasn't working. They wanted to go down swinging, which I completely understand. Nothing was really working. If nothing's going to be working, I'd rather just press the variance button and blitz, so I completely understand that. It reminds me a little bit of 2018 Chiefs that were just constantly blitzing and playing man. Well, the defense sucked. So, I mean, just blitz it as often as you can and see if you can create a big play. I mean, I'm kind of with that, so I get it. And then Tampa Bay, they obviously had a lot of success, but there was a lot of longer drives in that game. So that game ended up being a little bit more low scoring than the market expected. I'm leaning to the under, obviously, since I like Eagles team total under, but could I see this game going over? Yeah, but I think Jalen Hurts would have to play a lot better. We have not seen above replacement level quarterback play from him in the playoffs. So I don't know if it's lingering concussions, other nagging injuries, or what, but I am very skeptical you can win 4 playoff games in a row with this sort of quarterback play. So if I were to bet a major market in here, this game, I would just probably, besides the under, maybe I would bet Washington money line just because. Would it surprise me one bit if Washington won? No.
Yeah. I think the case for the over here for me is, like you said, you can't predict these home run plays, but it's basically going to take 2 Saquon busting, 40+ yard deals, because if not, then it's just going to be this him 5 yards at a time, 5 yards at a time, 5 yards at a time, and it's going to be like a dead ass under game, right? And the only way I think this thing gets over, he breaks a couple, then Washington kind of has to play in hair on fire mode, right? Which is basically then they just have to go in and there's throwing every down, going for it on 4th down every time, et cetera, et cetera. That's kind of the formula I think for an over. I don't really see that either. So I have a pretty strong lean to the under. That said, in these solo games, these island games, I'm going to hold out and see if I can get an extra half point or a point with people coming in and betting overs, because we all know the betting public loves to bet overs. And so I'm going to sit on it a little bit and see if I can't get a little bit better number here in this one. But yeah, Brian Robinson stuff for me. I took the 4.5 on the Eagles. That's long gone, so that doesn't matter to anybody out there in this one. And, it's a really low number for Jalen Hurts, 180 yards. This is kind of one of those in-game prop deals. Several of the books are offering the in-game props now. If you see they're willing to throw it a little bit earlier in this game, 180 yards is low. That's just a low total for any NFL quarterback. Like I said, these are full-on Jake Hayner numbers that you're seeing here for Jalen Hurts. And so I think maybe that would be the only other look here for me.
I think I looked at some game props. Mm-hmm. One of them that was a little bit interesting to me was, I don't think I'm going to bet this, but Washington longest touchdown plus 125. I kind of like that one. Yeah. There's such dogs there that you don't usually see numbers like that with an offense like Washington. If we anticipate that the Eagles are running in all of their touchdowns, which they pretty much have been so far.
Right.
I mean, obviously Saquon can just rip off a 70-yarder, right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yes.
but at plus 125, I mean, I think the chances are that Washington is going to have the longer passing TD. So at that point, you're pretty much just fading a home run shot, which, like I said, I don't know how predictive that is. I mean, with Saquon, it probably is predictive on some level, but that one was a little bit interesting to me.
So as far as the playoff leaders market goes, I mean, look, you look at this. Saquon Barkley is plus 125 to lead the playoffs in rushing touchdowns. The next closest, Derrick Henry just is the current lead right now, but that's an interesting market. Most passing yards in the playoffs, Jaden Daniels minus 235 over there in that market. He's probably likely to get a decent amount here. As you mentioned, Jalen Hurts such a massive dog because even if he has a good game in this game, he's so far behind everybody else. I don't know. I think a lot of these like playoff leader markets are kind of already set. The only one that's at least somewhat interesting, I guess, to me is just the most receiving yards market out there. I mean, and we'll talk about that, I think, a little bit more in the next game. Bills and the Chiefs. Mo, you were out there, saw the team in person. Here come Josh Allen and company into town. Josh Allen goes out. They get him Amari Cooper. He's like, hell, I don't need Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper doesn't even get a target until the fourth quarter. Like all of a sudden, like, I don't need that guy. No big deal. Goes on. This Bills team just makes it all the way to kind of where everybody thought they were going to make it to. This seemed like an inevitable clash here between this Bills and Chiefs team. And so here we go. And the market is kind of telling us, yeah, this is kind of what we thought as well. We're sitting here, point and a half. I guess there's a 2 at Circa. There's a 2 at Fanatics out there on Kansas City at this one. 48.5, the prevailing total. What do we think here about Josh Allen and his cape that he just puts on several times a game and tries to will his team to a victory?
Yeah, until last week, right?
Yeah.
Then he just kind of went into Patrick Mahomes, modern Patrick Mahomes anyway, game manager mode, and just got the team across the finish line. So this is a weird one because I thought there was reasons to be concerned for both teams last week.
Yeah.
Obviously, with the Chiefs, they were big favorites. Didn't really play like it. Special teams and red zone pretty much got them the W there, which fine. The Chiefs, I think that's a little bit predictive, especially in the special teams case. The Chiefs consistently year after year get value on special teams, and that was a big part of that game that not a lot of people talk. Everyone wanted to talk about the refs and then the sacks, which those were big. Those moved the needle at times, but the special teams were huge for the Chiefs. But it's not really something you can count on week after week. And on the Bills side, I mean, they weren't the better team in that game against the Ravens. Like, we just have to be honest about that. And, I'm not saying the Ravens deserve to win because they didn't. They threw the game away with turnovers and drops. So that was on them. And good for the Bills for taking advantage. And now they play the Chiefs in a spot where I thought I was going to be a little more confident in the Bills. I'm surprised that the market has the Chiefs favored, to be honest. I kind of think the Bills should be -1 here. I'm a little bit tempted to bet the Bills, but maybe I'm just being a scared fan. So I don't know if my bias is creeping in here, but
yeah,
I do kind of think the Bills are the side. But one thing I'm irritated at myself about, I liked the over at 47.5. I hadn't pulled the trigger, and now I'm seeing it's at 48.5. So I blew it.
Yeah, I guess so. We kind of know what the Chiefs are likely to do on defense. They're going to blitz and they're going to play man. They're a top 10 man coverage team in the NFL. At least this season, Josh Allen's had a pretty decent amount of success versus man coverage, 7th best in the NFL versus man, despite the fact that he doesn't really truly have a wide receiver 1 or hell, a wide receiver 2 at that, for that matter. Just kind of whoever ends up being the dude that day. Like I said, we're well into the fourth quarter before both Amari Cooper and Keon Coleman even had a target in that game last week. And it's just, odd that they're able to continue to get it done. Riding James Cook a whole lot more here lately as well, who's despite facing some pretty tough run defenses, has been able to have some success. And so Kansas City, you could argue, is the worst of the 3 run defenses that he's actually going to get, and he was able to find some success against the Ravens and against the Broncos as well. My guess is they see if that works again early, and if it doesn't, then maybe they shift. But I think there's probably going to be a decent amount of Cook early in this game.
Yeah, I think so. It didn't work last time. The
Yeah.
Chiefs really bottled up this run game. They really bottled up every facet of this run game last time. I mean, Josh Allen and James Cook scored 3 touchdowns between them. So they were very successful in the red zone. But as far as like efficiency, getting yards, James Cook had 9 for 20, and Josh Allen had like 12 for 54 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's really low for a quarterback. I mean, the Chiefs did a good job bottling this team up. And we all know, obviously, 22 of that or whatever was on that 4th and 2. So he was really not getting anything going on the ground outside of that play, which is a little different for the Chiefs. They have struggled to contain Josh Allen running the ball in the past. I don't know how predictive that one game is. I think the Chiefs are going to have some success running the ball here. They had 4.6 yards per attempt on the ground last time, and we know at least I do, from watching the Bills Chiefs so many times, the Bills, once again, similar to what I said about the Eagles, against the Chiefs, they want to play as many light boxes as they think they can get away with. So they will let the Chiefs have a high success rate rushing attack, especially knowing the very, very low explosiveness of this rushing attack.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're going to invite the Chiefs to have some 5-yard runs and then see if they can get some stops on 3rd down and short. That's kind of what I expect them to do on defense.
Yeah.
So I think both offenses are going to have a lot of success, but I also kind of think both offenses are going to be pretty methodical. So it's kind of a weird one for me, where part of me loves the over because I don't think there's going to be a lot of punts in this game. And we both know these quarterbacks are outstanding at protecting the ball as well. But that also kind of plays into longer drives, which could be killing the clock and play more to an under. So if this was like the Super Bowl and you could find total first down over or something like that, I think that would be good. I looked around for something like that. I didn't find anything like it. So I kind of like that, but it's hard to monetize that opinion. But I do think it could be a shootout in the sense of not a lot of stops, but a slow shootout, if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, I get it. I'm very curious about this Bills defense. So they ran top 5 in the NFL in too high, right? And like Mahomes has just been, like we talked about this on the podcast last week. It's like, yes, Mahomes 3 years ago would get frustrated with the little dink dunk and like he'd end up making these horrible mistakes and stuff. And then like the last 3 seasons, he's like, okay, fine, y'all, this is how y'all want to play me. I will just sit there and I'll just run these 11 play drives down the field, and it is what it is. And like, so, I mean, are the Bills really going to, if they're going to sit in too high, I mean, the blueprint is there. Like Mahomes is fantastic at this now. Like he's okay with just taking what the defense gives him. We see Kelsey has another massive game, last week. Like I expect Kelsey will probably do it again this week with all of that. And so I don't know, man, if you're the Bills, do you try to adjust that a little bit? I mean, I know that's what got you here, but also you're going up against a dude that has proven time and time again that he knows how to just absolutely obliterate these type of defenses.
And that's why there's a part of me that one of the reasons I'm having trouble getting the Bills across the finish line and just like firing a wager on the Bills, there's a part of me that I just feel if either quarterback is going to make a catastrophic mistake in this game, I still feel like it's going to be Josh Allen, especially after watching that Ravens game last week. You can just see the lunatic in him is fighting to get out, man. He tried to pitch it on 2 different running plays where he was like bottled up, and then I think one of them, the one by the goal line, he like couldn't even get his arms away from his body, so he was like, okay, this physically isn't going to work. I'm going to have to eat this play. But you could see the inner lunatic fighting to get out, man. And if that happens, that could be dangerous. Yeah.
It's the catastrophic turnover that seems like is going to flip this game, and it just seems to me like Josh Allen's a friggin' minus 250 favorite to be the one that makes the catastrophic turnover to change the game,
Which is crazy because he's been so good about avoiding that this year.
Yeah.
But I still feel that way, especially watching him just fight and try to pitch the ball last week. I'm like, dude, don't.
Yeah. I'm going back to the well again. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. This is not a victory lap for me. It took the kneel downs to get it home last week with the over 9.5 Josh Allen carries, but it's one of those things yet again where here we are with the team that does blitz a lot. He is third in the NFL in scramble yards on the season. Josh Allen is not afraid if he sees a running lane to just take off over and over again. And we know this Chiefs pressure could create some lanes here where either one, he sees yardage, he's going to go take it, or he's just forced to kind of take off and take the 2 or 3 yards as opposed to taking the sack. And so it's plus money again at FanDuel. It's to take the over 9.5 carries for Josh Allen. And so I did it yet again. I like I said, got lucky last week. He took the kneel downs to get that home, but it did get home as well. And then, as well as anyone, like the propensity for Mahomes to run in these high leverage games is like pretty high. And then also, if you think the Chiefs are going to win, it does add that kneel down equity as well. His rush attempts 4.5 in this game seems pretty low again for like what we see from Mahomes in these kind of high leverage games. Like he changes the way he plays in these type of games than he does in the regular season.
Yeah, and he has run the ball a bit more against the Bills. I looked into this than he has against other teams. His playoff average is like 5 per game, and in 3 games against the Bills in the playoffs, he has averaged 6 rushing attempts per game. I don't think he's ever been below 5. I think it was 5, 6, and 7, I want to say. So I'm with you there. Another prop I was looking at, if people want to get weird, I think this is a really good one. I dug deep on this kicking prop. This is the first thing I fired when I flew into Colorado because I knew I could get back on DK here.
Yeah.
So longest field goal in the game, I like under 47.5 at minus 105 quite a bit. Mm-hmm. This one, when I look at both of these teams, part of the angle is what you were talking about with the Josh Allen rushes. Mm-hmm. I think the Bills are just going to go for fourths. I think Sean McDermott's learned his lesson. He knows kicking field goals against the Chiefs in January is folly. And I think if they're in a 4th and like 5 or less and it's a long field goal, I think there's a pretty good chance he's going to go. We know he's going if it's like 4th and 3 or less. And then that's when the designed runs come out, which, to piggyback off your point, the line for designed runs on Josh Allen in this game is probably 4.5. Mm-hmm. So that'll be basically halfway home on just the designed runs. Mm-hmm. And then on the Chiefs side, I don't know if I've talked about that on this, but again, just Harrison Butker does not look right to me. I have no confidence he can make a kick over 40 yards. His mechanics are a mess. I think the Chiefs know that, and I'm hoping Andy Reid does not try any long field goals with him in his current state. So that's why I like the under 47.5 here. Both teams, I think, are going to be hesitant to even try these kicks, much less make one.
So let's finish things out here with a guy that we haven't talked about yet, and we definitely should, and that is Travis Kelce. Kelce lined at 67.5 market low, 70.5 market high, and 6.5 receptions out there with various juice. We were right on last week. I mean, it was glorious to watch Kelce go out there and hit all that stuff early, hit all the ladders, hit all the everything on Kelce. It seemed like a very obvious deal given the defense that he was going up against last week. Now, this week, at least a little bit different here. What do you think the role here for Kelce is? And again, these 67.5 market low, 70.5 market high.
I'm a little bit bearish on Kelce here, surprisingly. I know that he kind of turned back the clock a bit, but it wasn't the way he turned back the clock last year. We saw him come out against the Bills and look like a new man. That's not what happened last week. I know he broke 2 tackles in one play, which is 2 tackles more than I think I've seen him break the entire season, but he still looked very slow doing it. Mm-hmm. And I think the weak point on this Bills defense, and this is one of the other reasons I like the over in this game, is the safeties. And then you have Taylor Rapp hurt.
Yeah.
So it's probably even weaker than it would be under normal circumstances. And the Chiefs have Xavier Worthy and Marquise Brown. I think there's going to be some big plays there for the taking for this Chiefs passing game. I think we might see explosive Chiefs offense again, as crazy as that sounds, coming off that Houston game where they were completely bottled up, other than the one Kelsey catch and run, basically, and the big sideline hit to Worthy. But I think Worthy and Marquise Brown are going to have some chances here. I think this passing game has looked significantly better since Hollywood Brown came back. I know it didn't look like it last week, but the other game since Hollywood Brown came back, things looked a lot better than they did earlier in the season. It's just a question of if Mahomes can hit them. I mean, he has struggled on his deep accuracy this year. I'll be the first to tell you that. So, if he can find them, I think they'll have some openings. So, I'm a little more bullish on the outside receivers possibly winning downfield in this game.
Yeah, I thought that there was a number out there, and actually, okay, I just looked it up. It's still there. Hollywood Brown has a 34.5 market low on his receiving yards. Like I said, he even tried a couple of shots last week to him. It just didn't connect. And it's like now, like you said, Rapp's already ruled out. This could get there on one catch, right? I mean,
and those Texans corners I talked about this, but they are extremely difficult to beat deep. It does not surprise me that game was a success rate, low explosive game from the Chiefs offense. That's what I always thought it was going to be. I mean, Sting, I don't know if the Chiefs threw at Stingley once. That guy is a monster.
Yes.
So, and then Lassiter is extremely good too. The Bills, I mean, they have Benford. He's pretty good. But overall, this secondary is much more beatable, I think, than what the Texans are rolling out there.
Guys, again, everything we do, absolutely free. Upper right-hand corner of thelines.com is also the Discord, so go in, be sure, and take advantage of that. See what everybody else is betting for this game as well. And if you haven't done so already, whether it's the audio side, whether it's the video side, do appreciate you guys hitting that subscribe button, giving us all the love, the little votes up and ratings and reviews and things like that does help more people find us, and appreciate the support here, specifically over on the YouTube side of things where we are well over 50,000 subscribers now. So thanks for watching us talk about a bunch of football this season. Of course, we're not going anywhere. We'll be back for all kinds of Super Bowl talks, all the different things that will be going on here. And we will know next time that we talk to you guys which two teams are going to be playing for the championship. For Mo, I am Matt. Good luck on all your Bills Chiefs bets.